Once again, a very good morning to all of you who have joined us for this training. And this is a training that's going to look at conflict sensitivity and how to address issues of conflict sensitivity within research. For this training session, we have Dr. Sudarat, who's an advisor on our SUMERNET work, in which we are looking at both how do we address conflict sensitivity as well as research ethics. So she handles both of these aspects as part of the advisory panel that we have within SUMERNET. So before we begin the training, just a few quick reminders. I hope all of you will be engaging and asking your questions. Please do not hesitate to ask your questions on the chat box. And there will be times where we can actually get you to then ask those questions or ensure that we facilitate the question and answer session in the process. Try and be ask as many questions that you may have, because it will help us improve on what you can do and how you address issues of conflict sensitivity and ethics within the research that we take forward. So without any further ado, I will invite Dr. Chinese, who's the program director for SUMERNET, to give the welcome remarks for this session. Over to you, Dr. Chinese.
Thank you very much, Chashmita, and good morning, all colleagues here in Bangkok, in the office, and also online. It is my great pleasure to be here and join this training and make the opening remarks. First of all, before talking why we are here in the training, I just want to really express our heartfelt congratulations to all partners and grantees who receive the awards for SUMERNET. I would like to emphasize again that the reason why you are selected is not that only because the quality of the proposals or expressions of interest, but we could see your passion to really make the change from the research and from the activities that you propose. And that's why it's very important for us to keep really close interactions. SUMERNET always considers our partners and grantees not as like, we are not donors, we are actually one of the supporters and SUMERNET family. So once you got in the systems as a grantees or as a partners, you are part of our SUMERNET big family. So that's why we feel some obligation for us to make sure that we really have the sufficient support to our grantees and also partners, because the SUMERNET not only wish to have the quality of research products, but also hopefully whatever we do, our work and effort will contribute to a certain extent the change on ground. And that is the reason why we sometimes have many activities inviting you to join. Sometimes it's a meeting, forum, and sometimes it's training, sometimes just a one-on-one dialogue, because we are really far from each other, and we not only want to know how to support you, but want to learn what you have experienced from the field, from interactions with the boundary partners or the stakeholders that you really wish to contribute to their work and wish to make sure that our work is relevant. And one of the topic is that we realize that working on water insecurities, addressing this issue, it might touch upon some issue linking with the conflict, and also might link upon the issue of safety, not only for the researcher. I would like to emphasize again, even we are keen to have a good product and high quality work, the safety of researcher and the partner is the highest and most important. So this training is like on conflict sensitivity and research ethics will give some idea, the concept, and how we can integrate this into the research or the project's activities. In any case, that's why If you have any doubt or any questions, please feel free to ask the expert and also share your view. If you have already some experience exposed in the field or exposed with the stakeholders that you would like to share back to our advisor and also secretariat to enhance the way we support the partners. By this way, we have two-way interaction, two-way learning, and whatever you contribute to us will be long-term contribution to other network members that we will support, maybe many hundred or thousands people in the future. Your contribution is very important and very grateful. Okay, so let me come back to what I'm tasked to say today. Just want to emphasize that this training has the objectives to provide the grantees and researchers with practice-oriented tools and the method on how to integrate conflict sensitivity and research ethics in their research projects and activities. And we have three specific objectives. The first one is to expand the understanding on concept and added value to conflict sensitivities and research ethics. This is number one. And the second is integrate conflict sensitivity concept and application tools in the research project. So understanding not enough. Our aim is how to apply, how to use this into action. So our action here is to implement the research, implement the project, right? And the third one, what we really hope for to apply SUMERNET research ethics principles in the research project. I realize that in many countries and some partner organizations, they don't have their own ethic review process or don't have any interaction and review, ethic review board and anything. So that's why we offer this kind of support to our researcher and grantees. But if you have, for example, your systems in place in the universities and other, maybe we can discuss and probably you could use that system instead. So, but we can have that discussion later on. And the target participant for this training is our project lead, the project team lead, and also the members, including early career researchers who are involved in the research design and implementation. Hopefully, the knowledge gained during this process not only contribute to the research projects that you are leading now under SUMERNET, hopefully it will also benefit to other projects or research activity that you are involved now or in the future. And today I'm very grateful that we have real experts. Ajahn Sudarat really joining us as a main trainer. She is a thematic advisor on conflict sensitivity and research ethics. And she really have many years experience on this. And I feel we are very lucky, not only the grantees, but also secretariat team to learn and hear from her. By doing this, we also learn the same things. And I want to say a big thanks to all members participating today and also all secretariat team and particularly advisor to really make this possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chinese, for those inspiring words to start us off. And as we move on to the session, before we get on to the session, we have a small little poll that we would like to do just to understand who are the participants, where are you from, and all of that. So over to you, Agus, to help us take us through the poll. So I hope you can see it on your screen. That's the Vivox app that we often use. Either you can use your phones to scan the code, or you can go on to the website and type in the ID number. Agus has put in the link of the Vivox code, Vivox app or the poll that we are doing on the chat box as well, if you want to directly click on that, or you have the QR code to scan it. So the first question is pertaining to your nationality. Ten more seconds and we can start showing up the results on that. Okay, that's good to know. We don't have any partners from Laos that are joining our training, it seems. Pookie is here but not here. Okay, on to the next question. The next question is, this is basically to also understand the composition of our participants. It helps us to understand what gender our participants are coming from and doing this training. 10 seconds and we shall start showing the results. Promising results that we have a lot of women participants among us. Almost equal, is it? Yes. Thank you, thank you. On to the next question now, which is to understand what's the age composition that we have. Are we early career? Are we mid-career? Are we senior professionals? Where do we see ourselves and who are we who are taking this training? All of this data is basically helping us to identify who are on these trainings and how are we reaching out and what can we improve as we go ahead. Wow. Most of you are early career professionals here. Early to mid-career, maybe. Okay. A few of us are seniors as well. On to the next question. We want to understand as we get into this training, what is the level of your understanding on conflict sensitivity? It gives us a sense of where are you coming from. It can be you don't know anything at all. This is the first time you're attending. You can be somewhere in between, or you would have already done a lot, but you would want to reiterate that and want to know more. And hence you may say that you are on 9 or 10 on the scale. It's just to understand the level at which all of us are and therefore see how we get going at the end of the session. Where do we see ourselves? And the results are mixed. Interesting. People are participating in this or not? I don't see too many responses. Are we still a little slowly getting up? Almost the end of the week, tired to be part of another training? Is it that? Oh. Okay. On to the next question then. We close this poll. So how familiar are you with the research ethics review process? Did you have to do this as part of anything that you've done in the past? Be it a project, be it as a researcher, be it as a thesis that you may have written up, any kind of research ethics review process that you may have undergone or may have heard about. You can again see yourselves in the scale that maybe you've never done this or you have in the past done and you understand the process. Again, this is to understand where are we all coming from, at what level are we as we get into this training. Can I see more responses, please? Currently, there are less than 50% people responding. Some of you have gone through this process and have had experiences and are familiar, possibly. That's interesting to know. And you may have questions for our trainer, Ajahn Sudarat, in case there are things that are challenging, there are things that you don't understand. This is your time to also ask during the session. On to the next question. Okay. Oh, sorry, I missed that out. That was the last question we were responding to. So thank you, Agus, for this. And thanks everyone who participated in the training, in the poll itself. Now I'll welcome Ajahn Sudarat to start off the training. The first part of the training is looking at conflict sensitivity and using what can be done and how it has to be taken forward. So over to you, Ajahn Sudarat. Thank you. Ajahn Sudarat, you might be muted. We can't hear
okay.
you. Oh, yes.
Sorry,
we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyway, thank you very much, Dr. Chayanis and Kun Sumista, for your kind introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to welcome you all to SUMERNET training. In this training, we would like to have a presentation topic, conflict sensitivity and research ethics. Again, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sudarat Tantibibat. You can call me Jan. I'm an assistant professor at Behavioral Science Research Institute at Srinagar University. I'm also a conflict sensitivity advisor for SUMERNET. I would like to congratulate to all grantees for receiving SUMERNET grant. I'm sure it will be a great opportunity and rewarding experience for all of you. So welcome. Okay. For today, training agenda will consist of 3 key messages. The first one is understanding the concept and added value of conflict sensitivity and research ethics. Another one is integrating conflict sensitivity and do no harm concept as well as application and tool. And the third is apply SUMERNET's research ethics principle in the research project. So we will spend around 2 hours for the training today. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask me. And I would like you to engage and participate in all the activity that we will do for today, okay? So first and foremost, for us to be able to understand the concept and added value of conflict sensitivity and research ethics, we should learn from the past mistake. Therefore, I would like to show 2 research ethics violation cases and ask you to think and reflect on how these researchers violate research ethics principle. first and the most notorious case is Nuremberg trial. Have you heard of Nuremberg trial? If not, you can read the brief summary in the PowerPoint. Again, please read facts and tell us how the researcher violate research ethics principle for these cases. Anybody want to tell me? Can I call your name?
Are there any one of you who would like to tell us?
Yeah, actually
Anything
I
that you
highlighted
know?
already. Yeah. Maybe I will call Ajahn Apishai. Ajahn Apishai, can you tell us how this researcher violates research ethics principle?
I mean, obviously the Nazis are not, they don't have any, morals or moral compass, let's put it that way. I mean, if you're looking at human rights, then of course they are some of the most, shall we say, extreme violators. But then, I mean, what's going on in Europe or elsewhere? I mean, we have conflicts next door in Myanmar, we have conflicts in Ukraine, Russia. So I don't know whether the world has changed. I mean, there are so many violations going on every day, every minute, every second. So how do we, resolve this? I mean, it's of course it's something beyond SUMERNET, but if you're talking about conflict, I mean, we are seeing it all around us, or whether even within our own country, our own societies. Yeah, I mean, of course, maybe also present its challenges, right? In terms of how do we then conduct, proper research. I mean, for example, you can't go into Myanmar now and conduct such a research, right? Because you'll be, facing many, problems. So, I mean, I don't have the answers. Of course, it's good to be conscious of this, but if the other parties are not on the same page, then how do you convince them? First of all, you have to convince, people who are like that to play the game or to play the fair game or the constructive game. But if you're not willing to play, do you have a choice or not? I mean, it's a moral question. So you have to go back to your moral 101 class or something. That's my simple answer.
Thank you very much, Ajahn Apishai. I think Mr. Rock Hong, right? Mr. Rock from Vietnam.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Yes.
Thank you very much. Again, first I would like to express my appreciation for SUMERNET and also Ajahn to share with us a very useful training related to research ethics and honor-based principles. Actually, from my previous experience, usually these are, if not always, overlooked. Especially there are human subject concerned. Especially, I think the rationale or the reason behind that these are usually overlooked is that we are not really life scientists, and then we see that anything that relate to human organs cut something, then that we need to take it seriously. But in fact, actually there are way beyond that life science, and I think social scientists and also even earth science, that anything that whenever there is a human subject concern, that I think a clear research ethics should be applied. So I thank you, Ajahn Sudarat, for bringing this. This is like very clear, showing that the research ethics principles have been violated in the sense that in this case, I think the subjects of the research is the Jewish prisoners. And I think the contexts are way different in our training over here, but I think is a power hierarchy that has been applied, and then they don't really treat the Jewish prisoners as a subject, but they have been taken for granted that they can use it at their own disposal. I think that's where the research ethics have been violated very clearly. And by not knowing the consent, the Jewish prisoners, I think, to the best of my knowledge, they don't even know what are the possible consequences that might incur by, and then, to be honest, I don't think they really have a choice at the moment. Either you join and then maybe hope with the hopeful thinking that you might be spared for a couple of more days instead of going into the concentration camp at the moment. So I think the research ethics have been violated very clearly by not disclosing the possible consequences to the subject of the research. So thank you very much, Dr. Ajahn Sudara.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ho. You are very, very correct. They have violated the principle of respect for human subject. They especially vulnerable group, which it relates to SUMERNET, because SUMERNET is working with vulnerable group, right? SUMERNET for all. And also they also ignore responsibility to obtain informed consent, before the conduct the research. So basically they have violated two principles of research ethics. First is respect for human subject. Second is responsibility to obtain informed consent, which we will learn both respect and responsibility shortly, because these two principles are very important for SUMERNET research ethics and conflict sensitivity. Okay, thank you, Mr. Ho. It's absolutely correct. Okay, so let me move to another slide. So as you learned in previous slide, that Nuremberg experiment have very harmful to research participants, right? In response to Nuremberg research experience, there was the establishment of Nuremberg Code with a set of ethical principles to protect research participants, right? Mr. Ho said, or Dr. Ho said, to many extent, Nuremberg Code is very similar to SUMERNET research ethics principle that you will learn today. So the Nuremberg Code consists of 10 points as follows that we need to learn as a researcher, right? The first one is the voluntary consent of human subject, like Mr. Ho said, right? Scientific rigor, as a researcher, you have to conduct a scientific, and it should be like rigor, right? And you have to have a good research design and avoid unnecessary suffering from your human participant or research participant, right? Death and serious injury should not be an expected outcome. Risk weighs against the importance of the problem, right? You have to analyze risk and the benefits, of the your research project. Prepare to protect the subject. And scientific qualification for researcher. And subject must be free to withdraw at any time, right? And be aware. Be able to stop your research project at any time if you feel that it's harmful to the participant. So these are summary of the Nuremberg Code, which I mentioned that it really relates to our research project and also the SUMERNET research ethics. So another notorious case study is Tuskegee experiment. Again, can you tell us how the research violates research ethics principle, and if they were SUMERNET researcher, which SUMERNET research ethics principle have they violated?
Ajahn Sudara,
Yes.
did I lose you in between?
No, I'm here. Are you still here?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we have somebody who raised their hand, Mr. Sisto, right? Miss Sistolin. Can you answer this, please? Thank you so much for participating in this.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly.
As you mentioned earlier, like respect and responsibility is the main principle that a researcher have to follow. So in this case, so the researcher do not pay respect and the vulnerable groups and without their consent, and also they don't take any responsibility after their experiment. So they violate these two principles of research ethics.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Sisto. You are correct. again, they have violated the principle of respect for human subject, especially vulnerable group, right? And also ignore responsibility to obtain the informed consent, before conducting the research. Again, I mentioned that respect and responsibility are very important principle for SUMERNET research ethics and also conflict sensitivity. Okay, so thank you. Anybody want to add on this? Mr. Ho, Dr. Ho, would you like to add
Yes.
on this?
Yes, thank you, Ajahn Sudarat. I think it seems like in this case, they also felt, I think, two more things. I think, of course,
Yes.
respect, Mr. Situling already highlighted. I think two more
Yes.
principles have been likely to be violated here. The first one is protection of the participants, because it seems like there are no healthcare monitoring, and then as a result, the participants have been experienced severe health problems, so no protection protocols have been executed. That's number one. And then number two is the disclosure of possible consequences of participation that have not been, it seems like they have not been informed that there might be side effects, at least side effects or consequences that might incur, even though it's just a metaphor or as a, what we call placebo. But even though all of those information should be disclosed prior to the research, but it seems like it's not the case in this example. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You are correct. Actually, they have violated another principle, which is called deceptions. Like they kind of lie about their aim of the research. And they also kind of lure, like participants, especially the African American with low income to join their experiments, and that is like we call it deception. Like you lie and then like you kind of testing them, but you don't really like kind of really you told something and you do another thing to them. You said that this research is like a prevents syphilis infection, but actually they don't really give them a treatment for this. Like this kind of research. So they let the participant have the syphilis, and then finally they become harm to the participant, So yeah, like Mr. Ho said, that absolutely they were not, like they were doing very harmful to the participant by lying, about the original aim of the research. That's the principle is called deception. Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Ho. So as you can see from the case study, violation of research ethics and conflict sensitivity can cause serious harm to the participant, researcher, and wider community. On the other hand, follow research ethics principles have several benefits for both researcher and participant. In summary, the added value of conflict sensitivity and research ethics are as follows. First, safeguard the rights, safety, and well-being of participants. Strengthen the value required for collaborative work, ensure general aim of the research, support important and social moral value, and also enhance positive impact and negative impact, and mitigate negative impact. So these are the added value of conflict sensitivity and the research ethics. So now let's talk more detail about conflict sensitivity. Conflict sensitivity refers to ability of the researcher to understand context in which research is operating, understand the interaction between research intervention and their context. This includes not only the outcome of the research intervention, but also detail of the research methodology and data collection, such as recruitment and selection of participants, research size and timing, detail of research administration, such as compensation and procurement, detail of your behavior pattern, such as respect, accountability, fairness, and transparency, and act upon those understanding to minimize its negative impact and maximize its positive impact. So do no harm is a tool and ongoing process that can be incorporated into research for the application of conflict sensitivity. In general, do no harm consists of 4 main parts of analysis. First, context analysis. Second, behavior analysis. Third, program analysis. And the fourth one is option analysis. Do no harm is based on the 6 important assumptions, which are also known as the relationship framework. because it shows the relationship between the element in the contact and the way that they interact to create either negative impact or positive impact on the contact. The sixth assumption consists of the following. The first, when we enter the contact, we become part of the contact. Second, every contact is characterized by divider and connector. Third, our research will interact with both divider and connector, make them better or worse. Fourth, our research interact with divider and connector through our behavior and implicit ethical message. Five, detail of research intervention matter. And fifth, there are always options. So let me go over do no harm of conflict sensitivity approach one by one step. The first step is contact analysis. Assumption one, when we enter a contact, we become part of the contact. As a researcher, becoming part of the contact is unavoidable. When we enter the contact, we or our activity will begin to have effect beyond our intention. Assumption two, every contact is characterized by divider and connector. Divider are those factors that separate people or increase inequality in society, such as system, interest, attitude. Connector are those factors that bring people together and increase equality in society, such as institution, value, interest, attitude, and festival. As you can see, some can be both divider and connector, some aspect, and can be both psychological and social factor. Like anything can be divider and connector, which we will analyze shortly in the case study, okay? So assumption three, our research will interact with both divider and connector. Our research can have a negative impact and increase tension among people, or it can have positive impact by increase the connection among people. So second analysis is behavior analysis. Assumption four, there are predictable behavior patterns which researchers interact with conflict. How our behavior interact with participants have direct consequence on the contact. These pattern behavior are called implicit ethical message, includes respect, accountability, fairness, transparency, are useful in identifying how positive and negative pattern of behavior can have an impact on our research project. So for the respect, right, the negative behavior that SUMERNET doesn't want you to do is competition, right, suspicion, and indifferent to local concern. While positive behavior that SUMERNET was encouraged you to do is collaboration, right, building trust, and sensitive to local concern. For accountability, we don't want you to do by ignore question and concern, right, use force or impunity, but we encourage you to listen and investigate, engage in partnership, and take responsibility for your action, right? That many people mentioned before. And also fairness, right? We don't want you to respond to specific group, like, oh, I only respond to the need of the rich, or something like that. We don't want you to do that. We don't want you to ignore the rule, right? But we want you to respond to the needs of everyone, like SUMERNET for all, and the need equitably, right? And follow the rule and the guideline. And of course, the last principle is transparency. We want you to contribute to all these positive behavior and don't do all this negative behavior, okay? So for the third is program analysis. Assumption 5, the detail of research intervention matter. A program analysis helps us unpack all detail of its intervention so that we can understand how these details interact with the contact. And the fourth one, option analysis. Assumption 6, there are always options. We can always do things differently than we are currently doing them. We can always learn and improve. If we see we are having a negative impact, we can make adjustment. If we see that we're having a positive impact, we can sustain it. So these are the conflict sensitivity or do no harm analysis. So hopefully you understand the concept of conflict sensitivity and do no harm. Do you have any question or clarification before we do the case study? Anybody have questions related to the principle of do no harm and conflict sensitivity?
This is your
Yes.
chance to ask any questions that you may have, because we will soon move into discussing a case study. But before we
Yes.
get into the case study, all the different concepts that Ajahn Sudarat mentioned, if you have questions on that, please do ask them. I can see Dr. Josh has raised his hand, so go ahead, Dr. Josh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ajahn Sudarat, for explaining all of
Yes.
these terminologies. A very quick questions. So let's say when we have a research question already, and from the research question that we decide that we will need to collect responses from a community. So acknowledging dividers, context, and conflict, I assume that we need to do some kind of mapping, right? Before we develop the questionnaire, so that let's say our hypothesis is these are the dividers. So let's say the geography can be a divider, that people living upstream and downstream that separate and then can create inequality. That can also be a divider. Am I correct? So
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
so if the research question is to explore if there is any inequality sharing of resources, so we can use the divider to develop our hypothesis that will also go into the questionnaire. Am I understanding correctly here, Ajahn?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Actually, you need to consider both divider and connector. You know,
Yeah.
because even though you reduce the divider, but you don't increase the connector, then your project will not be that great, because you only reduce the divider, but you don't build peace. You know, so we want you to build peace. Yeah, you know, so yeah, but you did a great job, you know. Yeah, so
No, I'm just asking, like, if I understand correctly the
Yes.
terminology of divider, because from my approach, we just call it variable. So for this variable, there are two labels, and then we are comparing different groups within the same variable. So now it's now you introduce the term of divider, which is I mean, like, quite systematic approach. And of course, I agree with you that, I mean, if we want to reduce inequality and then enhance the collaboration, definitely we should integrate the connector on how to bring these people upstream and downstream together. Maybe similarity in the festivals that they celebrate the same festival. They are some kind of same ethnic group, etc. So thank you very much, Ajahn. So that's just my very quick question.
Thank you very much. We are very good questions. Thank you so much, Dr. George. Okay, now I know your name. So, Mr. Sisto, you also have questions?
Yes, thank you, Ajahn, for your explanation. Yes, first of all, when the wars conflicts came into my mind is that so when we conduct the research in particular country, like for example in Myanmar, do we have to also consider about the political situation and also the regional context, like in Myanmar, there are many ethnic conflict in this context. So do we also have to consider about these situation in this scenario? Yes.
Sure, definitely. You have to, you know, like do context analysis, you know, like the first step. You need to understand the context within you are working on. So you have to do context analysis, understand the situation in Myanmar, you know, by like maybe you can do pilot study or you can conduct literature review or something like that. But very important that you do the context analysis, especially in the conflicts, you know, like area like Myanmar. Okay. Yeah, so thank you so much, Mr. Sisto, for the question. Very interesting and very good questions. So Ajahn Apishai, you have question also?
Well, yeah, I mean, just a thought, you know, in terms of dividers and connectors. I mean, I can easily imagine in any context that sometimes one could be a divider in that context, but then be a connector in another context, right? And if
Yes.
you're working across many countries, then you probably have a whole maze of combination. Some are
Yes.
dividers here and connectors there, across country or within countries and things like that. So how do you classify that? Because, I mean, it's easy on paper to say, all right, you are a divider and you're a connector. I mean, it's like black and white, just separate between black and white. But the real world is not so simple, as we know, right? I mean, that's why we are facing this challenge. Some are black in one square and white in another square or circle or whatever, and under different contexts over time or over space, right? So how does then one go about, sort of taking all this into consideration? In other words, I don't like this kind of dichotomy where you just say black and white. I mean, nobody is a saint or a sinner. We are all shades of gray, or even 50 shades of gray or something like that, So how does one then capture that? I think it's an important element. I mean, the real world, we are all shades of gray. So how do you then divide and connect? I guess that's the question.
Yes, thank you very much, Ajahn Apishai. It's very good question and very good concern. Actually, like I mentioned to you before, and also you also mentioned that some elements can be both divider and connector. So, and also like when you try to identify divider and connector, it could be exhaustive list. Like you can have like 10,000 lists about divider in the Mekong context, and 10,000 things or 100,000 things that can be connected in the Mekong context, right? So it can be exhaustive, like so many. But what we have to do is we have to go and look at your research objective. What you're gonna do and with scope, because we are researcher, right? We only have limited resource, right? So what is your research question? What is your research objective and your research context? And you just doing it within the scope of your study. And the list is according to, your scope of the study and prioritize them, and the goal here is not to do harm, to your research participant. And that is our goal. We not try to solve the world peace problem or anything like that, but we try to protect ourselves, our research participant, and the community that we work on. So that would be our focus. Okay, yeah, Ajahn Apishai is very, very good question. And I know there's a lot of people would say something like this, but I mentioned, focus on your research topic or like the scope of your research and focus on protect yourself, your research participant and community. Okay, thank you. So Dr. George, you also have question also, right?
Yes. Just a very quick and a follow-up question. So I just want to echo the discussion of Ajahn Apishai. So this do no harm and this context analysis and program analysis and conflict dynamic analysis is acting as a guideline that I think this is more like back and forth, right, Ajahn? Like, of course, when we have a project, we have a research question. Then this do no harm is kind of a guideline, and then we try to mismatch what are the research questions and do the best of the scope. We try to apply as much as possible. It's not like we need to tick all of these contexts, because I think like if we go into, because some like really unapplicable. Let's say if just sharing of a resources and this not a real conflict yet. I mean, it is emerging, but the conflict is not really clear yet. Then we focus on the context analysis and divider and connector. So this is more a guideline. It's not like we need to do everything, right?
Yes, you are correct. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's just my confirmation. Thank you, Ajahn.
Yes, especially for this context, like conflicts have different stages, right? For the Mekong, area, we call it prevention stage, which means it still have a little bit of symptom, but not sick yet, doesn't have a lot of violence yet. So conflict sensitivity is good, but like Dr. George said, that not necessarily that you have to do everything. You just have to focus what is important in your research. actually conflict sensitivity is used a lot in Africa, like, and some now they use a lot in Myanmar too, but conflict sensitivity is this concept, it came from Rwanda genocide, so yeah, but it's quite like a conflict prone area and something like that. But I think for SUMERNET is we can use it, like I mentioned, as not to do harm to our research participant and prevent the conflict or prevent harm to our research participant. Okay, yeah. So thank you. Dr. Apishai, you have another question? You raise your hand.
Okay, I mean, let's put it in a very simplistic way. For example, if you build a reservoir or dam, okay, the rice farmers will be happy because now they have maybe year-round irrigation. But then you may also have negative impact on fisheries, people who are fishing, or the livelihoods of the rural, communities are affected because of the dam construction. So, in other words, okay, then how do you resolve this conflict? Because obviously some are benefiting, some are losing, and therefore you have to either find ways to compensate the losses of those who are feeling that they are, they're losing out something, and then therefore then you have to have a value to, okay, how much compensation is fair, or how much is do no harm, because those who are negatively affected, they will, say, okay, you have destroyed my livelihoods, how do you repay back a livelihood or something like that, so I mean, I don't know. Okay, okay. I'm sure we can find ways to make an adjustment. I mean, basically, what we are asking for is a balanced way of development, right? I mean, in other words, taking into consideration all the different parties involved. But I guess sometimes it becomes complicated when you expand into a larger sort of a context, whether it's across 2 countries or even in the Mekong 6 countries or something like that. Then how does one then balance one off against the other, and what is fair? Because what you say is fair is not fair to me or something like that. So how do you then come to hopefully mutually agreeable compromise? Of course, it's a philosophical and a theoretical question, but this is what we are facing. Mekong, for example, is in a very serious competition phase now. And there are many people negatively affected, but there are also those who are positively affected. Some are more, some are less. Some countries more, some countries less. So in the end, can we come to some, mutually agreeable, solution? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, it's very legitimate concern, and thank you very much, Ajahn Apishai. Actually, like we can, like, I think you also mentioned that, like, we need to have like a win-win solution, right? We have to negotiate, like, and try to find specific, like address specific concern that both parties can have a win-win, or like negotiate something that they both agree upon. And that will reduce the conflict, but actually the conflict is okay, conflict is part of life. You cannot avoid conflict. But what we don't want, in terms of conflict, really, we don't want violence. Conflict is part of life. Every day we conflict all the time, like me, right? My conflict is I don't want to get old, or something like that, right? Or, like today I don't want to get vaccine or something like that, right? That's also internal conflict, or like sometimes you fight with your wife and husband, that's a conflict. But what we don't want is violence. We don't want you to do harm to other people, but conflict is part of life. And actually conflict can be good. If you negotiate and you talk and you find some win-win solution and both parties can win, then conflict can be kind of, like good for you or good for the Mekong, as you are mentioned, But like I mentioned that they have different method of, like kind of solve conflict, but this is not the case, we are conflict sensitivity. Method of solving conflict is like negotiations, like mediations, and maybe like a stakeholder engagement, engage a lot of people, and like can be one of the methods of like solving conflict also. Yeah. but don't think of conflict as, oh, like win-loss, think of conflict as like part of human life, and try to avoid harm or violence. Yes. I don't know that I answer your question or not, but I think that we can explore more on your concern to the case study,
Yes,
because
yes.
like we not really like, we have option, like, so we will explore by like the option analysis, like we don't have to do this particular thing, but we also have different options that we can do. And maybe the option that we select, might be good and sometimes might be bad, so that's, and we have to analyze more which option would be the best option for us or something like that, right? So if
Yes, please,
you
please,
don't
please go
have-
ahead with your river case study. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. So thank you very much for the very, very like informative discussion and question. I'm really appreciate this. Okay, so now let's take breakout group, and we spend around 15 minutes answering the question highlight in green, from the river case study, and then each group will present your finding and will summarize the case at the end. Is that okay?
Yeah, let me quickly add a little bit more. So what we are doing here is we are breaking ourselves into two groups. So what we'll do is we'll randomly have some of you be shifted to another group, and we'll look at this case study and identify dividers, connectors, the conflict dynamic and all of that. And then one of you will then come back when we reconvene back at the plenary. One of you would present whatever you guys have discussed, so that then Ajahn Sudarat can also further debrief on the whole session. So what we'll do is Anjali will help us break into two groups. One group will remain in this room that's currently there, and another group will be moved to room 1. So the other group will have Ajahn Sudarat as a moderator, and I'll be the moderator for the group that's in this room. And we'll have about 10 minutes. We are actually running quite behind schedule right now. No problems. We'll see how we can make up for some lost time. But the idea really is to have us discuss more and see how we can take it forward. The questions that Ajahn Apichai raised are very important. The idea, like Ajahn Sudarat mentioned, it's not that anything, I mean, we are not suggesting things are black or white. They are in these grays, and how do we navigate these grays so that we ensure that the least amount of harm is done in the process of research. We may not have all the answers, but we should be aware of how we navigate these spaces when it comes to conflict. That's where one is coming from in taking up this. And I did see there was a question by Buanong about understanding a little bit more about the connectors and the dividers. So clearly, through this case study, I think we will look at some of these things that, yes, a stakeholder that might be a divider today can become a connector later. And it's a process. It's not saying that you have very strict boundaries around who becomes divider and who becomes connector. Depending on the context, depending on the changing scenario, these things do change. But how aware are we and how do we take that forward and navigate that is what is important. How do you foreground these conflicts to be able to solve them? The idea is to be more transparent in doing some of these things. That's where one is coming from when one is talking about these principles and how we take it. So let's move into the two groups. So hello, everyone. Once again, you've been hearing me all this while. Are there only 3 people here? So as we go ahead and start discussing this a little bit more, what I'll do is I will share my screen here. Can you all see the screen that is shared right now? Can any one of you just unmute yourself and say, because I can't see the people with the screen, sharing screen on right now.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Okay, so here's this case study. Can we just do a quick round of the people who are there on this group?
So it's me, Punlu from Cambodia.
Can you just, I mean, because I only can see my screen, could you just say your names and introduce quickly, just a quick round of introduction, because we just have about 10 minutes from now to finish this off.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you, but I don't know who's speaking because I can only see my own screen.
It's
So please say
Punlu,
your
it's
name.
Punlu speaking. Punlu
Okay.
Soon from Cambodia.
Okay.
Mhm.
Others, who else is there? Okay, maybe I should just stop sharing my screen and Futsadi. If you're speaking, we can't hear you because you're muted. Okay, Situlin, can you just say a quick hello to every one of us? We are a very small group, really.
Yes. My name is Sanjeev. Organize. Please step up. Okay. Yes, my name is Situ. So I'm from Myanmar. Yeah, 96 years old. I'm the fellowships at SUMERNET. Yeah.
Thank you. So we've all heard about the principles that Ajahn Sudarat spoke about. And we have this case study that we need to discuss among ourselves. Who among you will present it in the plenary? Who wants to do that? One of you should volunteer.
Yes, I can volunteer.
Okay, sure. That's great. So I'll just share my screen, but the moment I share my screen, I can't see any of you. So please bear with me and at least have the conversation going. So as we said that the case study is about this one particular river. So basically the context is that once upon a time there was a river and there are some farmers who lived by this river. They grew crops. They basically growing crops that depend on the water from the river. And there are some herders as well who live on the plains, and during the rainy season, while there's enough water for the cows, but the herders, when it comes to the dry season, may have, because there's not enough water, so they probably do not have access. And then what happens in that context, what can be done and what should happen. So in talking about this case, I mean, where you know that there are these two groups, and there is a farmer group, there is a herder group, there's water. Just imagining this context, if you could start thinking about who are the dividers and the connectors in this context. If you can start talking about it. And if Anjali can help us with the Jamboard, where you can, I mean, she can keep writing on the Jamboard while you speak that who are the dividers and who are the connectors. And I'll stop sharing my screen so that Anjali can share the Jamboard screen as she writes things there. And all of you can keep so for an example, I mean, I hope you understand what we are saying, that the context is of a river. There are two communities, they live close to the river. One is doing farming, the other is doing herding. One of them takes care of animals, the other mostly has crops. And in that context, when in the summer season, for example, when there's less water, how do we identify in that context who are in this context, who are the connectors and who are the dividers? For example, I would say that the river is a connector in that context. Yeah, so we can say that in the connectors column, we can write that the river is a connector because the river is the common resource that both these communities depend upon. So in that sense, the river is the connector. And Anjali, if you could write on the connector side, river, next to, just under it. So Ponlu, you had your hands on, and if you want to quickly share.
Oh, thank you so much, Shishmita. At the moment, I was questioning whether you can give a little bit of comprehension on what is connector again and what is divider again, so that I can have some sense of information. I feel like I lost at the moment. Thank you.
So like Ajahn Sudarat mentioned, that the connectors are whoever you think in the context of the resource has a positive impact are the connectors. And that would differ from context to context. So while the dividers are the ones which may cause a conflict, that's how you're seeing this. And from your understanding of this context, how do you then see who is the connector and who is the divider? Given there's a river, there are crops, there are farmers. I mean, if this is a village, there will be women, there will be different groups of people. Who do you think will come together if there's a conflict? What would happen? Will they come together to talk about it? Will they not come together to talk about it? Who will make it more difficult to come to a solution or won't come to the negotiation table? So those will be the dividers who might be the cause of the conflict. And connectors are, so for example, if you think of hydropower development, and you can say that the connectors are maybe civil society groups that are trying to get people and the government together to talk about the conflicts that are there. The river can be the connector because the river is the common resource that all of us depend on and want to ensure that it survives, because it's not just for hydropower, but I have my livelihoods there. So it's about, given that context, how you understand and then define. And that's how the dividers and the connectors are being talked about in this context. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Is that clear, or?
It is clear, it is clear.
So then give us I mean, Situlin, Ponlu, Futsadi, if you could start talking about who are the connectors and who are the dividers in this case study context with the river. And
so from my perspective, just like we all agree on, the river here is the connector, while at the same time the interest of those two groups and the divider. For example, the farmer, they grow crop, so the crop here is the divider from them to the herd group. And yeah, that is from my point of view at the moment.
okay.
I will try to write it down on the
Yeah, if you
Jamboard.
want to write it straight away on the Jamboard, you can do that, or on the chat box, so that Anjali can just copy it and put it there on the Jamboard.
Yes. Please. So I think we now can identify the connector and the divider, and the next step would be finding the solution on this particular issue, right?
Yeah.
While there are many options, one of which, from my perspective, would be the building of irrigation, where we can make the best use of the river. Like the flow of the river can go to the crop team at one hand, and they can also build new irrigation that it can go to the herd group, so that the animal, the cow, can have access to the water.
So you're talking about options for research, is it?
Yes.
Or you're talking about solutions? Because we're not talking about solutions. We are saying that as a researcher, if you're in that space where there is a conflict, what are the options as a researcher that you would have to explore?
So my first option would be the possibility of studying the building of irrigation in that particular village, where both group can
Anjali,
have fully.
Can you write on the?
Where both group can have access to the river during the dry season.
Yeah, I didn't get what exactly you were saying.
Can you speak out again? I'm not sure I can catch up.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So I was proposing the study on the possibility of building an irrigation. You got it?
So as Ponlu, as we were saying, that it's not the solutions that one is talking about. If these are the dividers and the connectors, how do you see you will solve a problem of, say, water security? What would you do? You would bring these groups together, you would try and mediate something. It's not about the construction of an irrigation system. That
Okay,
as a
so-
researcher you can't do, right?
Okay, I got it. Mhm.
You can facilitate discussions on the different uses of water, for example, and then saying that can there be a sort of a water users association that can be set up to then identify the different needs of the groups that are there, so that people have a space where they can come and facilitate that conversation. Use that as a conflict mediation mechanism, potentially. But that's already going too far. I still want to know who are the connectors and the dividers. In a village, there are women. Where are what do you think of the women? Are the women dividers? Are the women connectors in this context? Because often women use the river as a place where they are meeting up, they are having conversations, and they may be having that's the space what they have for engagement. So you see them as connectors in that context. Women using the resource.
Women
Jitu,
using
you
the
have
resource.
anything to say?
Yes, I just thinking that for example, like village head and village authority in this particular village can be a connector in this case.
Again, I couldn't understand what you said.
Yeah, I mean, for the connector, village head and village the authority would
What
be
authority?
the village administrator, so that they can,
Administrator.
yes, administrator.
Okay. We don't have any dividers. What can be the cause of conflict?
Pusati, if you can speak out and have active discussion with us. Are you still with us, Pusati?
And I see that Min has joined. So I see Situlin has written agriculture wedge workers. What? Connector, divider.
Yes, they could be the dividers because if the water is not properly they cannot use in their field, so they could lose the jobs and the crop cannot grow properly. Yes, they could be the one of the divider in this scenario.
I mean, that's also true for the herders, that the herders won't get water and they will be up in arms that we are not able to access the water for our cows. But there is scope for exchange because the herders may be selling the meat or the milk of the cows, whereas, and in return, they get crops from the farmers. Yeah.
How about market? Can the market
Yes.
be the connector between these two?
That's
right?
what. So that's where I just now mentioned about the exchange of the goods that are there between these two is the market. So is the connector in that sense. So if they have a conflict, which is around that they can't share the water, but then in the process of that conflict, they will also lose the market. And if they want that to happen, so then they have to come at the same table to then discuss how do we solve this so that our market remains, our livelihoods remain. Yeah.
Good.
Any other thoughts, anybody else? Actually, the dividers side, we need to also just mention whatever these guys have said. One was the agriculture wage workers can be potential dividers. I mean, basically, they may lose their livelihood if there is no water. The herders may also be dividers because when the crops are in season and when the cows come across the farms to get to the water, then the farmers lose their crops. So there would be a conflict there as well. Anything else? Min, Futsadi, Min.
I'm not sure, but I'm thinking of the role of the investor. If there is an investor here, investor can bring these two sides, two groups together. For example, if they invest on herd on the herd, so they may need to buy some stuff from the farmer to feed their herd, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And again, I'm also thinking that in the context of the story, the case study, I don't know if there are investors, but there could be, and that those are external factors. And how do we bring that into the context when we are talking about addressing, and then whether they then become the mediating channel for addressing the resource scarcity issue. So water scarcity is the divider.
Yeah.
Yeah. Situ, you have to probably make these as the quick notes for you, because I don't know, are you connected to the Jamboard so that you can speak to it when we are back in the plenary?
What
Any
else?
other thoughts on who else can be connectors or dividers?
I'm still thinking of the woman factor you mentioned the moment. Women, they may access to the river frequently.
Yes.
Maybe given their, say, so-called role in the family, but I believe
Women
they
are not
can.
dividers, they will be connectors.
They will be the connector. Women will be the connector in this sense. They can talk, they can discuss, and every time they meet each other in near the river, right?
Yeah.
So if the woman is the connector, maybe on the other hand, man might be the divider. Let assuming that they have a very stubborn personality and difficulty to talk with one another.
That's true. I mean, we can only imagine within the case study that this may happen. And there may be some men who may be the dividers, but there might be some who will then say that, no, we need to get together. So, and it may be the same with, so that's where you have, when you're looking at all these stakeholder groups, you have to identify, are these all homogeneous or they are different parts within it, so that then you identify and then you see how you can bring them together.
So we have women and men.
Yeah.
I believe there can also be children here. So children would be the future of the two groups, and I bet they are in the connector side because both sides want a better future for their children.
Children,
So,
yes.
a man is in the divider too. Yes, thank you. What else?
The other two are very silent. Situlin, you have anything to say? Or you're keeping your energies ready for speaking at the plenary? Have we crossed 10 minutes? 10 minutes are over? Okay. So are we going back to the group, to the main room?
Okay, everyone, I'm just would like everyone to review this, the one that I have shown in the screen. If everything's correct according to your idea, before we get back to the main room. So the connectors we put here, the river market facilitates discussion, possibility of irrigation, administrative authority, and women are the connectors.
The facilitate bit is not a connector. It's something for options for research. That's what we were talking.
This one?
No, the one above that.
This one is for research, no?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And here we have the dividers, just only 3 bullets here.
The agricultural wage worker.
Sorry, can you speak up a bit? I cannot really hear you correctly.
So we have herder. We also have farmer. The farmer can also be the divider.
Okay, and farmers. Okay. Okay. So
And at the moment, we also mention the investor as well as children in the connector side.
investor
Yes,
in the divider,
in connector side.
in the connector. Okay. Okay.
And one children, please. One more for children.
Children here as well.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. We are going to send back everyone right now.
To use.
So we have 15 minutes to discuss about the river case study, but actually both Dr. George and Ajahn Apichai already brought up a little bit about the river case study. So let's go to the river case study and discuss, okay? So for the context, okay. So let's list the context analysis. Once upon a time, there was a river. Some farmers live by the river. They go up their crop next to the river. There were also some herders who lived on the plain. During the rainy season, there was enough water. But during the dry season, the herder needs to take their cow to the river. What happened when the herder take their cow to the river? So these are the questions that you have to answer. What happened from the context analysis?
They may pollute the river.
Yes. Yeah, they pollute the river, right? Anything else?
Downstream can be affected because they are exploiting the part of the river. So some people who are dependent on river for their domestic needs, they will be in problem.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think that we need to go and share with our friend from another group too. So if possible, if somebody can take notes and one person can be the group leader to present about our finding or our discussion.
Ajahn,
If that's okay?
I already prepared the Jamboard, so I copy the link in the chat. They can go to the Jamboard and they can write their notes there. They can use the
Yeah.
post-it. Yeah. If
Thank
the
you very much, Mr.
if
August.
the participants can go there,
Yeah.
and then they can also
Ajahn.
put their idea there.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe may I ask Surabhi to help us take note? Yeah. Yeah, so I think we can, so that we can have a more continuous discussion, Ajahn. Because Surabhi is also from AIT. We are on the same project Java.
Oh, okay.
So Surabhi can help us to take note. Thank you.
Yes, I can do that. But Mr. August, can you also so do I need to add some?
You just grab the sticky note, or the post-it,
Okay,
and then write
okay.
your idea there.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we can discuss first, so that we
Okay.
can take note. Then later on, we can go to the Jamboard and then write, at the end of the discussion. That's better.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I can
So,
also help to record the conversation as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So Ajahn Apichai answered that they will pollute the river, right? And another Sulami will answer her question so she can write it down. Okay, so anybody want to answer the first question? What happened when the herder take their cow to the river? Any more answer?
I think it depends on the availability. I mean, we don't know what is the flow of the river, and there might be cases. I mean, I think this go both ways. I mean, if the river becomes relatively drier, and if the farmer pump a lot of water, then might not be enough water for both users. So because we don't know information yet, that do we always have sufficient water theoretically for two users or not. We don't know how many cows, we don't know how many rye we are going to irrigate. So yeah, so that's a bit of I would say need to clarify, but I mean that can be a source of conflict as well. That won't have enough water for both.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any more answer for this? Okay, if not, then we're gonna go to divider and connector, right? Given what you know about this contact, there will be divider and connector between these two groups. The question is, what are divider or source of tension between these two groups, and what connect these people? So first, let's analyze the divider.
But the tension obviously is between a competition between the people who wants to use the river for crops, right? For their crops.
Yes.
And the other one, of course, also want to use river for their cows, right? And then, but the
Yes.
problem is then, especially during a dry season, yeah, like we were talking about dry season now, where the water is scarce or not enough, then this competition can potentially become fierce, right? Because everyone wants to have their fair share, but we don't have enough share to fair share to share, something like that. So then that becomes a potential conflict.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, Ajahn Pichai said that water scarcity, right? Water issue and things like that, right? And competition would be divider. So anybody have other divider that would like to share with us?
Yeah, maybe that also related to what Surabhi just said about the water quality, that there might be some pollutants generated by one of the user, like if we irrigate, that from the crops, we expect that there might be some agrochemicals and then also some fertilizers entering back into the river that the cows might not be favorable with. And then the other way around, when we feed the cow, I mean, again, the context is there. Since like how the cows are fed, like they would just like let the herd go together, or there will be diversion. If there are diversion, then obviously we can reduce the risk of pollution from the cow at least. But I would say water quality will be another divider. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Anybody else?
We
Who
have not
haven't
heard
speak?
from Kun Latolin.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I think that another divider in here would, because it does say that there's the dry season starting, so probably raising the livestock here can lead to climate change. So the dividers would be between those that are environmentalist people, and probably the other one would be the farmer. So between these two groups could have conflicts over the behavior of taking their cows to the river. So that's my opinion. Not sure if it's correct, but yes, thank you.
It's okay. That's good. That's good. Thank you so much. Hopefully, Sulami, you can be able to take the notes. Okay. So now let's analyze the connector. What would connect these people together?
I think responsibility.
Responsibility. Okay, sure. Anything else?
Responsibility in the sense that both the cows and the crops need water, so they should have maybe ownership as well, stewardship as well. Again, the context are not, is different countries will have different rules, regulations that users should abide to. So, but maybe we can put a responsibility that both users should take care of the source, since it's a vital part for their practice. So I think responsibility, it would be the connector. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Who else would like to answer this? We should have a little bit more connector. Yes.
It's more tricky actually. Conflict is easy.
I'm sorry?
No, I mean conflict is more visible than connector actually.
Yeah, understand.
And maybe one another alternative is that, okay, the cows, I mean, they can produce manure, right? And
Yes.
manure can help in the crops. as a fertilizer, right? Organic fertilizer, so that then the farmer, whoever is growing the crops, may not need to buy fertilizer. All right, that's one. And organic is usually more, right, preferable these days than chemical one, and you're not polluting or causing adverse pollution, chemical pollution in the river. So that could be a win-win. But of course, it has to be properly managed. Not we don't want the cows to pollute the water too much. So you have to keep it in onto the land and take the manure and then apply it on the rice fields or whatever.
And
Thank you so much. Yes.
On the way around, Ajahn, maybe some byproducts from the crop can go back.
Can also go back to the cow. Yeah.
Yes.
Circular economy.
Yeah.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, thank you. So who else would like to tell us about the connector? Kun Bunnong, we haven't heard from you.
Sorry, I'm still thinking, but perhaps maybe the connectors could be the characters between people. I think this comes back to being compassionate to one another. Each one of us wants to get what we want, and maybe being compassionate is the connector, understanding one another, that everybody has got their needs. So I don't know which category this falls into, but probably this is the connector.
Yes, that's great. Very great answer. Thank you. Yes.
So maybe I think maybe we can have something like I don't think if this applies or not, like rules and regulations that in some countries they have a license and then there are some tariffs for the water footprint. So if they can work together and then they can combine their two practices. So basically for the same liter of water, they can serve two practices, so reduce the water footprint and then in the way reduce the tariff in both users. So that might be some room for collaboration to overcome the conflict. So I understand that if there are a shared resources, users will be abide to the same set of rules and regulations. That is also something that will connect them, that they will have to face the same issues with government as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. George. That's great. Okay, so I think
I
we have
one thing,
enough.
Ajahn.
Okay, sure, please.
So I wonder
Mr.
if we can also consider the same experience, because it's a dry season, right? Both of them experience dry season. So I wonder if that can become connector as well, no? Other than, maybe it's possible divider, but also maybe they experience the same problem of the dry season. Yeah. So
great. Similar to Kun Bunnong said, they empathize with each other from the climate change or the dry season or something like that, right? So that would be a connector also. So that's very good, Mr. August. Yeah, thank you. So let's move because we have 10 more minutes. So let's move to conflict dynamics. Just want to tell you that conflict, not still conflict have dynamics. So in this situation, the violence level have been escalated in the recent year. The dry season start early this year. People are concerned. So for the program and option analysis, like if you are a research team in this village, what would you do? Like what kind of research project would you do? How will your option reduce divider? Let's answer the first question first. What would you do? What kind of research project would you do in this situation?
Maybe we could allocate some parts of the river for the cow to feed on the river, like something like that. Allocate some part of it, parts in the river, so that they both will be benefited by the river.
You mean digging a well or something like that? I'm not sure.
Digging a well can also be a solution. Maybe use of groundwater instead of surface water or something like that. But the other thing, it can be, we can make something like floodplains or something so that they can graze there. so the water is not polluted.
Good, good. Thank you, thank you. Who else? What kind of research or any project, that you would do to help,
I think we can echo what Ajahn Apichai suggested, that they develop a circular economy model
Yes.
to bring the two users together. We generate the crops. The crops, part of it will be sold to the cow with a cheaper price. At the same time, the revenue generated from the cows can be returned back to the crops with, of a cheaper price, so that they see that the extraction and then the share of resources will have immediate return to the practice. So, I mean, exploring opportunities for circular economy, obviously a worth research question.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yes. Anything else?
Maybe the research can be about the land and water management to reduce the conflicts between farmers. So the management of the land and water for the purpose of using it for agriculture activities. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so let's start with only two options, right? One option is the circular economy, like Dr. George and Ajahn Tichai referred to. So let's analyze, and another option is land and water management, right? I think Kun Bun Nong, right, the one that suggests that. So yeah, let's analyze the first option first. So analyze the option and how will the first option reduce divider? Circular. Yeah.
Yes, I think for the original case study, I think the model is linear economic model, means that the source is the river and then the endpoint is the user, either cows or the crops. So those are the linear model. But when we make it a circular model, then we already connect them together. And then, of course, the divider is, I mean, if not reducing, I think it's also removed, because now all of them are connected together. They see them as a part of a economy rather than competing users of a linear economy. So I think that's how we address the reduction of divider, and they are connected not only by theory, but they are really connected by economic benefit, because I have a neighbor selling cheap stuff to me. So yeah, I think that will be a good thing to explore.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think you analyze very correctly. Yeah, maybe you are much more advanced in this case study, right? Because, yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good. That's very good. Yeah, so we have a hope for world peace now. Yeah. Anyway, so let's analyze how will this your option reduce divider, circular economy. Can you just point 1, 2, 3? Like identify it, so we can analyze it. Like how will your option reduce divider?
Yes. I think the first one, the first divider we talk about is about the water availability. So I think because there are basically less amount of water. So if we take it from the linear perspective, so both users are extracting the water and competing each other without helping each other. But here we reduce the water availability, because each of the user will know that, okay, I let my friend take some water and then there will be some return to me. So it will be reduce the divider of water availability. And I think that's the first question. And on the increase the connectors, I think the connector in this case will be economic benefit. So that they can reduce their cost, both the cows, raiser, and the crops also reduce their cost, at least in this economy, so that they also increase the connector. Yeah, so that would be my analysis for the circular economy.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's great. So another option is land and water management. So how will this option reduce divider? Can you help our friend analyze how will her options reduce divider?
Well, I mean, land and water are quite, intricately related, right? I mean, in other words, growing crops would require water, right? So in this case, you are next to the river, then you are fairly secure, well, as long as there's water in the river, right? Or even if it's low water, you can still be nearer than those who are further away from the river, right? So maybe in that sense, one needs to manage it properly so that, especially with scarce resources in the dry season. But I think it also links up to the first option, because if you go for a circular economy kind of model, then you try to reduce, reuse, right, recycle, right. In other words, you're not bringing in pump in new resources, yeah. You're just trying to reuse it, and then the manure case of a cow is basically a good example of that. You are reusing a waste product from a cow to add fertilizer to your crop, okay, without buying new fertilizer or something like that. So I think that in itself is already a very good self-sustaining, shall we say, kind of a mode of crop management. And of course, the river water comes from many sources, right? Tributaries and things like that. And of course, that very much availability depends on the management of the land, right? I mean, if, for example, if you still have a lot of forests, and of course, this is going a little bit beyond, but one has to look at it in a total watershed context. And then you have a good balance between protected forests and then, because with trees, they absorb and keep the water rather than just allowing it to flow away, right? So in that sense, that feeds in the dry season, actually. So you have to maintain proper land management in order to have water management, in order to have water availability, let's put it that way. And so in that sense, it's very important that the land management is properly done or in a balanced way, so that then you have enough water for your crops or for whatever purpose. And then the proper management of land, would also then help you to, for example, by not polluting the water, unnecessarily by applying agricultural chemicals or fertilizers, right? You use the organic one. So in that sense, it makes the water quality better, right? I mean, if you not manage it properly, then you have less agrochemicals going to the water, so that reduces the pollution load. And then at the same time, you have organic, and therefore, if there's any pollution, then the organic ones are less harmful. You seem to say do no harm, right? I mean, I would not say there's no harm at all, but at least it's minimized, rather than have pesticides like the DDT or other chemicals in it. So in that sense, there is some very close connection between proper land and water management.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes. So have you identified the option for increase the connector too, right, Ajahn Abhishai? How will this the water and land management
well, I mean,
increase the connector?
As I explained, in other words, I mean, in the end, as one of my professors used to say, although I also study water management, like you, Dr. Josh, but he's a professor actually in journalism and mass communication, And at first, in a seminar, he was saying, talking to people in the water resources field, he was saying, water management is 10% water management, but 90% people management. Yeah. At first, I was trying to figure out what does he mean. But over time, over my four decades of experience, I think he is a wise person. And he knows what the real crucial thing is. If people are the ones that cause the problem of water management in the first place, then you have to get the people to solve it. Okay? Come together somehow to solve it. All right? And so this is what he means. And therefore, in this case, we are actually trying to, well, if I were to say specifically, is we have to bring the herders of the cow and the one who own the cow, livestock, together with the rice farmer and also to with whoever is a management of land and water in that particular river watershed, to sit down and say, okay, let us work it out. Okay, I mean, there are ways to do it. We can have option 1, option 2, option 3, right? And then let's agree to what is the best compromise in the end. So
Okay.
that would be the connector.
Okay, thank you so much, Ajahn Apichai and everyone. I think our time is out. So I think we have to go back to the plenary session, right, Mr. August? Mr. August, are you still here?
Yes, do you want to see the Jamboard look like? So you can.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, so let me share my screen then in a minute. Yeah. Okay. So can you see my screen now?
Not yet. Oh, good.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr.
So
August.
So Surabi has also helped to record this, and I hope it's useful for capturing, all the discussion points.
It's amazing. Yeah, so we should learn from each other. So we will share with another group. So I'm wondering whether another group is finished or not.
I can check, Ajat. But in the
Okay, thank
meantime,
you.
if you have anything to add in this Jamboard, maybe we can do it now. Otherwise, yeah, I will check.
I need to another machine, so I will sign out and come back in 2-3 minutes ครับ
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you.
ครับสวัสดีครับ Yeah, I will come back
สวัส
soon.
ดีค่ะ Okay, yeah.
Let me check.
Anybody have anything to
let me check.
add on this?
I think in the land and water resource management, we need to write how we can reduce the dividers, because it's just
Sure, yeah, so you can add it. Sulabi. Anybody want to help Sulabi add that?
Well, I mean, you can maybe put it this way. I mean, like what I was just explaining, if we can manage the different what do you call it, stakeholders in this properly, then we will reduce the division or potential conflict between the different stakeholders, right? By having circular economy, and then therefore that brings more positive outcome, which would be the connecting, right? That kind of strand, right? In other words, the manure from the cow would be used, on the land, rather than get polluted into the river, which would be a lose-lose proposition. Whereas here you are recycling into the system, making sure that therefore it's not wasted, and then it reduces the cost of production for the rice or whatever, right? Crops are being grown. So in that sense, a good land water management scheme could.
Now our group is back. Have everyone here? While we waiting for everyone to join, I would like to ask the SUMERNET secretariat whether we have time to discuss. Okay, we have time, right? Sure. Okay, so now I would like to invite group 1, maybe Ajahn Apichai group, to present their finding from our case study. Thank you. So who would like to present this?
I mean, okay. I mean, I can just.
Thank you so much, Ajahn Apichai.
Okay, we were looking at how can we, sort of reduce the division and also improve the connection, basically. And basically, in terms of this river case study, we're saying that we need to have river water management. Basically, is people management. As I was telling my group earlier. In the end, in the ultimate analysis, if people are the one causing the problem, then people has to be the one who have to solve it or find ways to solve it. And therefore, it brings back to responsible stewardship on both in this case the cows or the herders, as well as those who are the farmers who are using the water for the crops. And therefore, we should have a sort of a balance, trying to find the right compromise or balance on all the multi-stakeholders that are involved. And then there should be room for collaboration and compromise and so forth. And then, the byproducts from the cow, basically, for example, the manure, right? Cow produce manure. Instead of, just leaving it to waste, or worse, you let it pollute the river water, why don't you use that into as fertilizer, right? So that would avoid, incurring, using chemicals, fertilizer, and that could cause more harm to the river water, for example. So by using that properly on the land where the crops are grown, then you provide a more sustainable sort of organic and recyclable resource input to the crops production, right? And then I guess in the context of this, then if both sides can, of course, we have to also limit in the dry season where the water is scarce, then there has to be some kind of arrangement where all the stakeholders have to agree, okay, how much water can one use for whatever purpose, yeah? So that is a management issue and so forth. And then, of course, hopefully, if that is properly executed, then there will be less pollution and there's less competition for water, right? But of course, the water scarcity would always remain in both quantity and quality sense, a bone of contention, yeah, potentially. But as I explained, if we can properly manage it somehow, then I think those can be minimized, okay? I would not say we completely, solve or remove the problem, but at least it's minimized and therefore less likely to cause conflict, okay? So then the option for research, okay, sometimes some people are saying, okay, there's use for groundwater. Of course, the groundwater also feeds into the river water, right? And therefore, there's also a need to have, the entire watershed management. We cannot just look at it in that, just zero in on that one particular spot or whatever, because that spot is connected to a larger landscape, right? And therefore, a whole watershed management scheme should be, be in the picture. In other words, we have to look at it from the entire watershed kind of system perspective, whereby how can we then protect the upper watershed by making sure there's properly forested and things like that, and kept it at that level, so that then we ensure that water is being, trapped in the watershed rather than just flow out, and then it can feed into the river and therefore ensure that there's adequate supply even during the dry season. And then by using biocircular economy, like what I was explaining, using manure to be a fertilizer and therefore causing less pollution and so forth, that would then also help in making sure that the system is not overtaxed or overexploited and that can still be sustained, right? And in this case, in other words, if we try to do proper management among the stakeholders, then we can reduce the risk or the potential divisions and competition or the adverse effects, and actually then also produce more positive and constructive outcomes, which would then help the system to be able to be resilient, sustainable, and inclusive. I hope I've captured all. If any of my other members of the group would like to add anything, please feel free to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ajahn Abhishai. So let me ask another group to present so we can learn from each other, okay? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ajahn Sudarath. We actually had a very small group, just 2 people were there. And there were 2 others who I don't think were able to speak for whatever reasons. We kept calling out, but no responses came. So we were still stuck in identifying the connectors and dividers, and there was still some confusion about how do we do this and how we take it on. And so there were interesting things that came out from connectors and dividers. We didn't get too far with options for research. And these are some of the things that they spoke about. Situlen, if you would like to talk about this.
Yes. Based on our understandings, we defined the connectors and dividers. So the very first thing connector is the river. So the problem is based on the water allocation between the water to user. So the first one connector is river, and the second is the administrative authority. So we can manage the dispute between the two different water user, and also the women. We can be the conflict mediator between the two different users, and also the investor could see the potential to promote the efficiencies of water allocation, and also the children. So they could think about their future in the water allocation problem, and also market. Market is the main mechanism for the connector. Like the harder can sell their meat in the market, and also the farmer can also exchange their crop with the meat. So it could be the possible connector in this scenario. And also the agriculture, which will copy the connectors. And the second one is the divider. So in this scenario, the hunters and farmers is the main divider, and also water scarcity is the main divider in this scenario. So for this in this particular case, we could discuss about the possibilities of irrigation usage for agricultural consumption, and also for the animal rearrange. So another option is that we could facilitate the discussions of two different water user, how the water would be allocated, and also we could create the space for the discussion to mediate the conflict between the different water user groups. Yes, thank you for your attention. So if anything you could like to add from our groups, yes, please add anything you want to add in this discussion.
Thank you very much. So we don't have time. So I would like to thank both groups for analyzing and presenting. Both are very, very good. So let me share your slide about the answer. This is actually from the peace building perspective and social science perspective. But I think that today I learned from Ajahn Apichai and Dr. George from environmental scientists and water management, like perspective. And I feel like it's very, very valuable. That's why it's very important. I think I learned today that's why it's very important that we should work together. And that's why SUMERNET want us to do transdisciplinary research. Because if you only look at one perspective, then you're gonna only have one set of idea. But if you share idea, then you learn from each other, and I think the problem is solved better. So as I mentioned, this is just from the peace building perspective, and I feel like Ajahn Apichai and Dr. George, and even Mr. Sisto presentation is even more advanced than just one perspective. So let's see what is they think, from the peace builder perspective. So what happened when the herder take the cow to the river? They analyze will be some type of conflict, right? So what are the divider? The divider is the river, right? Water issue, water scarcity. Water get contaminated by cow, right? Many people say that cow eats and temple the crop, right? This is gonna be the divider. Environmental degradation from cow. People get into fight, maybe get killed. Different culture, different value on land, property, and collective use. This is gonna be divider, right? And connector are the river again, but because the river are where the two group meet and connect, right? And trade, right? Meeting trading meat for vegetable, share information, holiday and festival, this can be connector. Young women and men meet and fall in love, that can be connector. Young women meet at the river to wash, that can be connector. Women exchange information and story at the river can be also connector. And local dispute resolution mechanism, this can be also connector, right? And the option, like I said, that because this is from like a peace building option, and I think it would be great if we work with Ajahn Apichai and, you know, like environmental scientists and water management, we could have a lot of good options. So this is from peace building perspective. But the option is the researcher conduct research on groundwater and dig well in the plain, right? Option 2, the research conduct on established corridor and friend for cow, right? And when analyze the two options that they have, like the first option will reduce divider because the car would stop, you know, step on the grass, but will also reduce connector because the two community cannot meet at the river, right? And the options 2 also, they reduce divider, you know, because they're not fighting, because the car would not step on the gas, but also reduce connector again because the two community cannot meet, you know, by the river. And the very important element that they want us to understand is reduce connector is just bad at increase divider. The best option is to reduce divider and increase connector. Okay, so the option, the better option for do no harm perspective from social scientists or peace building scientists, right? Therefore, to negotiate specific and agree access corridor to the river that would be acceptable for both sides. So like I mentioned to you guys that this is an answer from peace builder or social scientist perspective. But like I mentioned that today I learned, you know, from Ajahn Apichai, from Dr. George, from Chisto, and from everyone here. I think when we get perspective from, you know, water management, environmental scientists, and we have more options, you know, and I think those options is even better, you know, so that's good. So I'm amazed and I'm congratulations on that. So thank you. So because we have only like 15 minutes left, so I will go quickly on the research ethics session. First, I would like to ask you, what is research ethic? In your opinion, what is research ethic? Can anybody answer this?
Yes, the moral principle that every researcher have to follow.
Thank you so much. Okay, so since we don't have time, so I will just answer now. Like ethic, according to SUMERNET, right? Ethic is the moral principle which influence our behavior and action, determine our choice, and shape our daily life. Right? Ethics are also integral to the conduct of research, from the design of project to the collection and analysis of data, and finally to the publication and communication of finding and recommendation. So these are definition of ethics according to SUMERNET, right? So we learned about Nuremberg Code earlier, right? However, there are other important ethical principles and guidelines, such as Bell-Mouse report. Have you heard about a Bell-Mouse report? Bell-Mouse reports consist of 3 principles, right? Respect for person, beneficent, and justice, right? And for you who work with like medical field, they will have like a Declaration of Helsinki and COM guideline, ICP, GCP, ICH, GCP. These are guidelines for ethic principle, you know. And for SUMERNET, we also have ethical principle, right? Consider 6 principles, include integrity, respect, responsibility, competence, social equity, and ethical balance. I will quickly go over one by one of these principles. And you can also read SUMERNET ethic guideline for more detail, okay? So the first one is integrity. These are the way that you apply integrity principle in the research project. Honest research, conduct, and trust in the research outcome, right? Disseminate the research result in a way that contribute to knowledge. This is what we mean by integrity, right? And for the responsibility principle, right, participant must always be informed of potential risks and benefit of the activity. Protect confidential communication, informed consent, and privacy of participant. Ensure transparency of research method, finding, and policy implication. You know, these are your responsibility that you have to do if you want to conduct research with SUMERNET, right? So for the competent, right, it's important to recognize that most researchers have specialized knowledge, ability, and skill, right? To undertake work outside your specialization, carry the risk, you know. Therefore, it's very important to consultation, negotiation, and establish mutual understanding with expert and stakeholder. As I mentioned that we need to work as a team, right? We are transdisciplinary research, so we learn from each other. Like today, I learned a lot from Ajahn Apichai, Dr. Jaw, Sito, and everyone here about, you know, conflict sensitivity also, right? So about social equity, right? Social equity involve treating all participants with dignity and respect, regardless of gender, age, race, ethnicity, ability, religion, and culture, through a fair process of recruitment and selection of research participants and boundary partner. Right? And the last one is ethical balance. Acknowledge that our ethic principle may not be the same ethical principle that hold by other stakeholders in the research. So we have to balance, you know, this kind of thing, right? So finally, I would like to conclude by inform you about responsibility for implementing ethical conduct in SUMERNET. Like each and every one of us are responsible for implementing and upholding ethical practice in SUMERNET. SUMERNET Secretariat Committee, Steering Committee, Secretariat, and Advisor are available to work with you to address any concern. So this is the end of my PowerPoint presentation. So anyone have question or concern regarding to conflict sensitivity and ethics, you can ask me. You know.
Thank you, Ajahn Sudharath. I'll open the floor for others. If anybody has any questions or have any doubts, please go ahead and ask. You can unmute yourself. You can actually raise your hands and we'll call you out to then ask the question. Any questions? Anything that comes to your mind that you feel that we could do better by telling you more about some specific aspect?
Yes, Dr. Josh.
Yes, thank you, Ajahn Sudharath. Yeah, sorry, I just changed the machine, so I cannot turn on my video now. It's not working on this one. So my apology. So very quick question related to a research ethics. So I understand that I understand that, you know, to apply the research ethics, that we should have the informed consent, and also it's, let's say in AIT we have a integrity review board to go for that, and then also that the questionnaire and consent would also be scrutinized by the research ethics team. So in case the implementing organization, we don't have a well-established research ethics to go through all of the informed consent questionnaires, integrity. So what is your recommendation of the process? Thank you.
We can help you. You know, like you mean like you don't have IRB as your institute, right?
Yes, actually, this question I asked for on one of my colleagues' behalf. So in AIT, we do have the IRB. So we have the process. That's why we were able to submit the report to that IRB, and then later on also we do again IRB at SUMERNET level. But in case the implementing organization they don't have the IRB, so what would be the recommendation?
Yes, if they are a grantee of SUMERNET, like we are happy, you know, to help you, you know, like examine the research ethics. because like I mentioned that the research ethic is the purpose or added value is to protect, you know, the participant and things like that, right? So like I mentioned, like if your implementing partner is not doesn't have the IRB and they are under the SUMERNET grant, they are SUMERNET grantee, we are happy to help them, you know,
Yeah,
go
thank-
through those applications. Yeah.
Yes. Thanks
you.
very much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I understand, you know, like the added value of research ethic, one of the added value for the researcher now is because when you want to publish in the international journal or something like that, right? I think the first thing that they ask is the ethic application approval or ethic approval, you know. So you have to show them that you have been approved by some kind of IRB, you know, institutional review board or something like that. And I think that's we can give you, if you pass the IRB from the SUMERNET, then you can send it to the journal or something like that. So we are happy to
Definitely.
help. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you very much, Ajahn. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I think that your project has been approved. So I think that Mr. August will give you a letter, you know, of approval shortly. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else have
Just
questions?
wanted to reiterate on that, whatever Ajahn Sudhara just now mentioned, that in the reason why SUMERNET has this research ethics committee is that we want to ensure everybody is able to access this. Because some of the institutions or some of the organizations that often get these grants may not have their internal system. And that's why it's important that we have it to be able to then improve on the research quality and to ensure that, you know, you are following all the ethical norms that must be followed in doing research that we do. And hence, if you don't have a system in place, that's fine. You can always reach out to the secretariat, and through the committee can help you understand and help you address some of those issues that may be there with regard to the research ethics. And that's why we all are here. So at any point you have questions and doubts about, okay, the questionnaire, you would want somebody to review it, whether it is covering all the points of ethics, whether there is an informed consent, how do I go about it? What is there a form for that, doing that? Because sometimes all institutions don't have these forms. But at SUMERNET, we can help you with all of this. And Ajahn Sudharath is with us in guiding through this process. So please use and remember that the secretariat is here to help in the process. Like Dr. Chinese in the beginning said that we are not a traditional donor. We want to be partners of research with you so that we improve on these processes and we build each other's capacities through the work that we are doing. So I'll actually leave it at that. I mean, are there any more questions from anybody?
Or anything that you want to share with your friends, you know?
Any
or
doubts
colleague?
that you have?
Yes.
I mean, actually, I like to find out a little bit about the topics that each of the group is researching on, but I guess that's a little bit, you know, beyond. Let's finish this first.
Sure.
Actually, on the SUMERNET website, Ajahn Apichai, they have the project,
Already?
you know, like different projects. Yes, so you can go and look at the different project of SUMERNET, you know, from the previous year also.
No, what
Yeah,
I'm
so-
talking about, the ones who are participating today.
Oh, okay.
By Dr. George or Situ, what are you working on? What is your topic of your project? No, this is just for, so that I know also, maybe sometime later on, we may talk to each other, consult each other, you know, if there's some similarity or relevant in our various research topics. I mean, I don't know whether SUMERNET will eventually give a brief. Okay, these are the, you know, the projects that we are granting for this batch.
Ajahn, I think soon we will share the video from the annual meetings to all the grantees, so you can also see that and learn about projects under SUMERNET.
Okay, fine. That's fine. Thanks.
So thank you very much. So if you don't have any more questions or concern, then I will end the session, and give the floor to Kun Sumista and Mr. August and Kun Anchali. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And I think it was an interesting session. Actually, it was one of our first sessions on taking forward conflict sensitivity, because this is, while we are trying to work on this is the first time I think we've done a training just focused on conflict sensitivity. And I hope you all have learned from the process. There may be still questions. We are happy to entertain those questions in emails, and Ajahn, we will of course have Ajahn Sudarat respond to a lot of them besides all of us here. So thank you all for participating in this training session, and I hope you've all enjoyed and taking back some learnings from here. There will be a lot of reflections. Like we kept saying that when we are addressing conflicts, it's never black and white. It's always in that gray zone that we'll have to always be addressing and looking at some of these things. But the most important thing is to acknowledge that these are there and then take the possibilities of how we can address it. And that's part of how we did this work. The case study helped to some extent, I hope, and through the case study, I'm hoping that some of you will respond. I mean, some of you will think about your own context in which you're doing research and think about, am I actually in any way contributing to more conflict or contributing to ensuring there are more connections and more possibilities of cooperation and collaboration between different stakeholder groups that might be there in your context. So that's where we are all coming from. There can be things that may have gone wrong, not gone wrong. So we would like to apologize in advance for that. And before we end, like we have with everything else, we do have a SUMERNET post-session quiz, which is basically to check on whether we have understood some of these things. So it's a very quick survey, which August will administer. It's a quiz that we designed, and this is something Ajahn Sudarat had in mind. And we will just get you to, so it's on the same Vivox link that you shared earlier as well. So the first question is, SUMERNET's 6 principles include integrity, respect, responsibility, competence, social equity, and ethical balance. Is that a true or a false statement? I hope all of you are responding to that.
I think more participants can join, please.
Okay. Okay. Good to know that the correct answer is true. On to the next question. Respect involves honoring the rights, privacy, and autonomy of those conducting research. Is that, again, a true or a false statement? Does all of these aspects need to be addressed to say that, yes, we are respecting in the context of when we are engaging with stakeholders for doing research? I hope we have more respondents responding to this. Okay. So everyone who's at least responded has responded. 100% correct responses we've got. The third one, conflict sensitivity is a practice of understanding how research interacts with conflict in a context to avoid negative impacts and maximize positive impacts. True or false? Okay. What are the responses? This group is doing well, I must say. Okay, on to the next question. Conflict can occur both through social factors and psychological factors. True or false? Indeed. Ajahn Sudarat should be very happy. Everybody has listened into your talk very carefully and are responding all correct answers. So big applause, not just for Ajahn Sudarat, but also for all of you as participants to have gone through this session. And to end this, I will, there is a small survey that we do to understand how we can improve our training programs. As much as we've always wanted to do some of these training programs in person, it's still not at a stage where we can do them always in person. But if all of you feel that some of these should be taken in person in the field at some point, do let us know as well through emails, because we would like to, as things are opening up and as we are seeing how we can take this forward. Of course, the Secretariat, as on date, is supporting over 35 different research projects. So it's not always possible to go with each one of you, but we would like to see how we can make it work. And sometimes so as we are ending the year and starting on to another year, but some of your research will continue and you will continue to do the work. We would like to be more engaged, and some of us would like to go to the field, including Ajahn Sudarat, because there's no better learning than learning while you're on field, because you actually are face to face with the problems. So keep us informed about your plans, and it will be great if it can be informed well in advance, because SUMERNET is just one part of the pie for all of us that are working on this project in the Secretariat. So we'll see how many, any one of us or some of us can at least make it to some of these, because interacting with you on the field is a very different experience than doing this virtual or the annual meetings. That's always not enough. I mean, I met some of you at the annual meetings, but I quite didn't have any deep discussions about things that you're doing. So looking forward to engaging more with you in the year ahead. And do fill up the evaluation. Agus has put it on the chat box, and share the results so that we know what you think, because this will help us improve on the next round of trainings that we do for all grantees and others, because we would also like to see if it's useful to open this up to a larger network than just the grantees. So look forward to your feedback on the session itself, and all the very best with the work that all of you are doing. Don't hesitate to get back to us. Keep us informed about your plans if we can join you at any of them. And on that note, Merry Christmas in advance and a very Happy New Year. Hopefully we get into a new year with less of the pandemic worries behind us, but doing better work as we go in ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you again. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks, bye.